Welcome to the Sweaty Pillow podcast. I have a really cool guest today, Angela Longo, who we met recently and just instantly, as women do, we had this instant connection on how we're both so invested in helping women live better lives through health and sleep. So, Angela, welcome to the Sweaty Pillow. We're so happy to have you today.
Thank you so much, Lara. I'm so happy to be here, so honored, and I look forward to all the good stuff we're going to talk about.
Absolutely. So we were just catching up before the podcast, and in typical women's fashion, leading up to our conversations before today, I didn't really have an understanding on what a powerhouse you are and the work that you do every day, every week to help women live better lives. So fill us in, tell us everything that you're doing these days.
Okay, so currently I am a board certified health coach. I've been an integrative nutrition health coach since 2017. And I started my own company in 2020 called Within, which is an acronym that stands for Wellness, Inspiration, Total Health, Integrative Nutrition. And I primarily was helping women with thyroid issues, right? Gain their energy, balance their hormones, lose weight. And I even created a signature program around that. And in the beginning of January 2025, I began working at a functional medicine center in Saddle River. It's the Functional Medicine Center of New Jersey. And it started out as only one day just to get out of the house because my business is primarily online and virtual. And it turned into 3 days because I absolutely loved the work that they're doing, learning directly from them and getting to help, a variety of people, but yet still keep my specialty, which is thyroid and autoimmune. So that's pretty much what I'm doing now. On top of all that, I started a mattress company with my, I guess, thyroid and menopausal women in mind, because they're mattresses that cater to people who sleep hot. So we know everyone in menopause is sleeping hot. So I know it's a lot. I keep going. Who knows where I'll stop, but that's all the wonderful stuff that I'm working on right now.
Well, it's a lot and it's so connected. I love the journey of being, we say here at May and Sweaty Pillow, we wake up in service of women every day, and you're really living that. So the health journey of speaking to women every day and hearing their stories. And what caught my attention is your creation of I call it the menopause mattress, which no company in the world has developed and thought about women first and women in this stage of life, to give them relief when they're sleeping. And that really catches our attention, and all the downstream negative effects of women in menopause that aren't sleeping are really life threatening. So thank you for all the work that you're doing. And we're so excited to get into this conversation with you. So let's get into it. I really want to go back, I guess, earlier in your journey, understanding what is it that women are really experiencing when it comes to autoimmune or thyroid or hormonal issues that are quietly negatively impacting their sleep.
So women in general, actually, of all ages, not just menopausal, they're experiencing thyroid issues or endocrine issues in general. And it's due to probably, I would say here in the US, just the foods that people are eating and even the water that we're drinking, the stress that we're under, this all has a huge impact on our endocrine system and our thyroid specifically, since it's the master gland of the endocrine system. So I am seeing a lot of that of all ages. And then it actually gets a little confused with menopause, or it doubles as women hit menopause, because the symptoms mimic each other. So that's really what I'm seeing a lot of. And I think it's just due to the state of this country today. Like I said, the food, drink, the stress that a lot of women are under, building careers, taking care of families. It's just a lot on their nervous system. So it will negatively impact their thyroid and so many other things as well.
So in your practice, the referrals that you take personally and as well as the functional medicine clinic, what is it that women are telling you every day that they're struggling with the most?
Oh my goodness. Well, the biggest thing that I see is that women get to a point where their weight won't budge. So this frustrates them. And then they turn to almost like starvation in a way where they're drastically reducing their calories. And and again, they're doing it in an effort to lose weight. That's all I hear all the time is, oh my God, I
Mm.
barely eat and the weight doesn't come off and they're not sleeping and they're experiencing hot flashes and they're getting all of these menopausal symptoms. And what they don't realize is that, anything drastic, whether you're eating too little, eating too much, that's going to negatively impact your endocrine system, your thyroid, and ultimately have you experiencing many more of those menopausal symptoms.
So how do you get to the bottom of what's actually causing it? Because if it's there is the kind of the track on menopause that we're deeply involved in, and we're so funny as women, right? We could be sweating, having chest palpitations, our hair's coming out. We don't do much about it. But if the weight gain is on, okay, let me get myself to 18 doctors to figure out the weight gain. So whatever it is.
Exactly. Because they can put in, they'll go get hair extensions and they'll wear makeup and they'll do all these other things externally, but the weight is something you can't hide. So that is the reason that drives, most people, especially women, from what we're seeing. So to answer your question, in my own practice, because I'm not a doctor, right? I basically work on a person's foundation, knowing that if they're going to make all the changes that I teach them to make, they're going to feel better, right? Their hormones are going to balance, everything's going to fall into place. And they do go for blood work, and, I can go over that with them. I work in tandem with their doctors. But what I'm seeing at the medical center, because I'm like front and center with these doctors sitting with the patients, they're sending these patients for, toxin reports. And people are coming back with an overwhelming amount of BPAs and forever chemicals and molds that are all interfering with the endocrine system. And, ultimately the thyroid, for instance, I myself mistook thinking that I was having menopausal symptoms, and it was actually a toxin load that came up for me. And once we got rid of those toxins, my hormones, balanced and went back to normal. So I'm really grateful, for what I get to experience at the medical clinic that I wasn't able to see, in my own practice. But that's really what's coming up for most people, and that's why I say, what they're putting in and on their bodies is going to make a significant difference in how they're feeling, and if they're going to even experience hot flashes or because menopausal symptoms are normal, they shouldn't be as bad as we're seeing them.
So I just skipped a few breaths for a second because the 187 documented symptoms of perimenopause and menopause and postmenopause that women struggle with. So on top of that, there likely could be a toxin load that's either amplifying.
Yep,
Really?
the toxin load is what is. It's not that it's causing it; it's just disrupting the hormonal process. It's disrupting the pathways that the hormones are supposed to go down. So that's what we're seeing a lot of. That it's just the overload of it, right? Because now it's everywhere. It's in the air we breathe. It's in the food we eat. It's in the water we drink. It's in the lotions we're putting on our bodies. So it gets to be overwhelming, and that's what we're seeing is a big contributor to a lot of these symptoms.
Okay, so what are the tests that women should be asking for as they're suspecting they could be experiencing some perimenopause symptoms, but now this overlays on top of it as an additional complexity? So break down when women go to their primary care physician or a functional medicine clinic, what should they be asking for?
So I will tell you that they're likely not going to get it at a conventional doctor.
Mhm.
I'm not really sure they believe in these types of things, but at a functional medicine center, and this is why I think it's safer to go to a functional medicine center, because they're really going to look at so many different things, from your toxic burden, to all of your blood work, to how you methylate, certain vitamins. I mean, they're going to go deep into a lot.
Mm.
And I think it's beneficial for so many people. The problem is, most of the times it doesn't go through insurance and people can't afford it. But if women can, if you can get yourself to a good functional medicine doctor, functional medicine center, here in New Jersey, the Functional Medicine Center of New Jersey is excellent. But you could even go online to Function Health. I mean, there's so many different options for women, but I would highly recommend that. If that's not an option, then they can ask their conventional doctors, their traditional doctors, what they can check for. They can look at so many different things, but like I said, it's, I'm coming from a functional medicine perspective, and I see what goes on there. And I also know that it's just going to be difficult to get from a traditional doctor.
We uncover that all the time on the Sweaty Pillow, and I'm one of the few people in my circle of friends that happens to have an amazing family doctor that realizes, and she'd be the first to say, listen, I only had 8 hours of training in medical school and menopause. I don't know, so I'm going to refer you to this person and that person. So we need to expose all of the avenues that women and men can invest in to pursue getting a full, complete picture of their health. So I actually didn't understand really what we could be bolstering our regular protocol with this idea of functional medicine and toxins. It's not a casual thing. These are alive and well, and they're impacting our health. So let's get an understanding of how they're adding to the problem, so it's good to know these things.
Now, Lara, if I can just add to what I was saying. Now, if most people, let's say they can't get to functional medicine, remember, I, as a health coach, was doing it for so many years prior to working at this functional medicine center. So a person, a woman, man, anyone really, just working on their foundation, which is something you can do without the help of a doctor, so looking at, what are you eating? What are you drinking? How are your stress levels? How is your sleep? Just working on those core pillars of health are going to make a tremendous difference. So I don't want people to think that they have to see a doctor, but they can work on it without going to a functional medicine center.
Very good. I love that. Thank you for that, because there are things that we can be doing on our own that we're not doing. And I just had this conversation recently with a doctor on the role that cortisol is playing with inflammation, which is the root of all evil. So I do want to get into kind of these foundational things, and then we'll move into sleep. But what are you seeing with stress levels and the impact on our overall health?
Yeah. I mean, as far as women are concerned, what I was seeing with a lot of them, in my own practice, that, their doctors were mistaking their thyroid issues. They were saying that they had thyroid issues, and really what they were adrenal issues, and, caused by stress. So overloads of stress will, really be taxing on their adrenal system. So what happens is, when your adrenal glands, they need a little energy, they need a little help, they knock on the thyroid's door. And so as you're pumping out more to give the adrenals what they need, that translates to doctors seeing, oh, their thyroid's not working properly. Their thyroid keeps asking for more hormone. So that's a lot of what I saw with women and stress. And then also just the more stress they're under from, again, what they're eating or drinking, how they're going throughout their day, starving themselves, eating way too little, way too much. That puts a lot of stress on the system. Working out, too late, and they're doing what they can. They're going after work, and then they're noticing that they're not able to sleep because, stress levels interfere with melatonin production. So it's just like this rough cycle that women go through. So that's a lot of what I saw myself personally.
So, what's your formula and protocol? You talked about these pillars. Just tell us more what you'd like to see people be doing with their health and their life.
Oh, so, you know, as it pertains, let's say to sleep, I would love to see them, really paying attention to what they're doing for that 16 hours that they're not in bed, to help them with a better night's sleep. So, what I see or what I've seen over the years, most women will, wake up, immediately go for their phone, and then from there, let's stay there. So instead of immediately going for your phone, I think that they should get some sunlight in some way, whether it's, opening your window, looking out the window, getting outside, fresh air, and then the next thing that they do is they go straight for coffee, right? And most people don't realize that they wake up dehydrated, right? We lose like almost a liter of water in our sleep from breathing and sweating. So I would say they should be drinking water, first thing before. I'm not saying not to drink coffee. I'm just saying to have it before, caffeine or food. So there's habits like that. Is that what you want me to talk
Yeah,
about? Like those
100%.
habits?
I love it. Break down a day. What would you like to see people doing? I
Oh,
love it.
absolutely. So yeah, so drinking, ideally 16 ounces of pure clean water, and even adding the juice of half a lemon because that'll hydrate you on a cellular level. And then, even before that, let's back up a little bit. I'm big on mindset and where your thoughts are and aligning your thoughts with your goals, especially your health goals. So like, are you waking up? Are you grateful? Right. And if you just wake up and be grateful for another day, will, practicing gratitude like that really sets the tone for the day. So those are just like some of the things in the morning that come to mind that I would love to see people doing. And then like really being mindful of what they're eating. Right. I mean, most people eat 3 times a day, maybe 5 with snacks included. So what you're putting in your body, is it riddled with chemicals, right? So if you're not buying organic, if you're eating everything out of a package, a box or a package, most likely it's filled with chemicals. So being very mindful there to remove the chemicals there, it's super important. Bringing in all the colors of the rainbow of vegetables, because all the different colors represent different antioxidants. So it's really important to pay attention what's going in your body. So those are some of the key things that I could think of. Exercise, it's right. You should be doing it. You should be moving. But it's the time that you're exercising that matters, right? So if you can exercise in the morning or before noon, that's going to be better because it won't raise your cortisol levels and interfere with your sleep later that night. So I think a lot of people don't realize what they're doing all day impacts, how they're going to sleep at night.
So let's get even more granular and just go with a TikTok trend on a day in the life of Angela. Like, you look
Oh my God.
amazing. You,
Thank
you
you.
look amazing. You're juggling 10 businesses and a family. And like, what do you eat? And, like, just give us the whole schedule. What are you eating in the
Oh
morning and
my
at noon and
goodness.
at night? And what's your workout routine?
All right.
Just
I'm going to preface this with I've been doing this now for about 25 years, right? Because I was very sick in my early 20s, and what I thought was a hardship wound up becoming a blessing because it led me to get a lot healthier at a younger age, right? So I don't want people, when I talk about what I do, these are things that people should aspire to get to eventually, and that's one of the things I have an issue with influencers is because it's like, oh, I don't, people shouldn't think, oh my God, I got to do all these things and then they get stressed out. But if they could aspire to do this, I do have a pretty good routine. So I do exactly what I just said before. As soon as I open my eyes, I am grateful for another day. I start thinking about all the other things I'm grateful for, my family, my husband laying next to me, my dog, my children, our health, just everything. I look around at my home and I'm just beyond grateful for the life that I have. And then, I step outside, I get some sunlight, I drink my water with lemon, and then I most likely have like a half hour later my celery juice because that's just become part of my routine. And then, for breakfast, do you want to know like details, like what I eat for
yes.
breakfast, for
Yeah,
lunch?
we break it down. I don't like esoteric concepts of eating whole foods are great, but
Mhm.
sometimes women want like, no. It's like walking into a store and seeing the mannequin. No, I want that. I don't want to like be distracted by 82 different blouses. Just
Right.
tell me that. And you're inspiring and you look amazing. So
Okay,
we want to
thank
hear it
you.
from you.
Thank you so much. So yeah, so I would say then I make sure that I have like a protein forward breakfast because I know that that's going to stabilize my blood sugar. So I'll have, I have to make sure it's gluten free. And a really good quality oatmeal. And I'll usually do like an overnight oat. I'm on a Sunday when I meal prep, I'll make like a good overnight oat with chia seeds and some maple syrup for some sweetness. And I add a little extra protein with some really good quality protein powder. So I'll eat that with some berries or a chia seed pudding with some berries, or I'll make like egg white muffins. So that's pretty much my breakfast. Drinking, lots of water throughout the day. I exercise in the morning, so I might have skipped that. So I walk my dog for 2 miles every day, and then I come back and I do some form of exercise. Maybe I strength train 3 days a week. 2 days a week, I'm doing yoga or Pilates. I bounce on my trampoline. It depends on what I'm in the mood for. I also have a sauna in my house. I invested in that a few years ago, a really good infrared sauna that I love. I go in that 3 days a week, and I hang my dry body brush by my sauna so I remember to do it, because that's a little habit stacking will help you to do things better. So I do that 3 days a week. I'm trying to think of what else I do. Then let's move on for lunch. I always make sure I have a lot of colors of the rainbow, lots of vegetables. I usually do either a bowl or a salad, depending on if it's warm out, it's more of a salad. If it's wintry month, I do like a good jasmine rice bowl or something. Lots of veggies. I do love lean protein, clean meats, clean poultry. I always look for grass-fed organic. I'm one of those people. I'm calling farmers. I'm calling purveyors. I'm checking into the efficacy of places. But you have to remember that's what I do for a living. So I just feel
Yes.
like in order for me to be good at what I do, I
Yeah.
need to look into these things. And because to me, it's always going to be quality over quantity. So when these women come to me and they're like, I'm starving myself, I'm like, listen, if you just eat better quality food without the toxins and the chemicals, you don't have to worry so much about the quantity. So I'm very, very big on just removing the chemicals in our life. So that's pretty much my lunch. And then dinner is just like a lean protein and a green. But again, I'm making sure I'm drinking lots of water. And my sleep situation.
Yep.
So that's like my whole day. The other thing is, obviously there's lots of stresses that come along, especially owning a business, trying to run a business, and then working for another business, dealing with, sick patients and people that you want to help and want to get better. It can be taxing. So I make sure that I incorporate stress relieving techniques, even if it's just breathing.
Mm.
Even if it just
Yeah.
means
Something so simple.
I tell patients all the time, take breaths before you eat, because now you'll lower your cortisol levels. You'll get yourself into a place of rest and digest, like, igniting the parasympathetic. And you're also, that's just a good practice. So now you're taking, let's say you take 3 deep breaths before every meal. Now you're taking 9 intentional breaths a day, and that's going to help keep your cortisol levels down. Going for a walk. I definitely practice what I preach, and I really try to keep my stress levels down. That's going to be huge to me, besides for the chemicals on all the foods and the water we're drinking and everything else. It's stress, to me, is the biggest one. So anything you can do to keep your stress levels down, and that looks different for everyone, right? As a health coach, what works for me might not work for you.
Mhm.
One of the doctors I work with said she'll punch someone if they tell her. You know what I mean? Like, thing
Yeah.
is not an option for, like, it's just no. For her, doing different things like, humming or gargling, something to stimulate the vagus nerve, that will work. So everybody is different. And that's why I love health coaching, because I feel like I get to help someone do what's best for them,
Mhm.
not the person that they watched
Yeah.
on the internet does.
That's really
So
good. It is. It's nice to have a menu because some days just moving your body with a walk is great. Some days getting a facial. Some days I find for me, and I've had a little bit of a back thing for the last 2 weeks, so I haven't been in the gym, and I notice myself getting edgy, and my husband's like, "You need to like." As soon as I come out of the gym, I'm a different person because there's something about that release of lifting and working hard that really helps. So yeah, it is different for everyone, but I find I have a go-to 5 things that depending on the day really helps alleviate the stress. It's so important. I agree.
that's great. And that's what I would encourage everyone to do. Like, think about you, like, what
Yeah,
works best for you, what feels good to you, what feels right to you. It really truly is different for everyone. And that's why there's so many different things that people can do. And when you find what works for you, just get in the habit of doing it. That's really it.
right.
Just that,
Yeah.
just get in the habit. It's not, even when I tell people to take some breaths before meals, it takes them a little while to
Mm.
say, okay, I did that 3 days this week. I remembered to do that 3 days this week. And then, the more you do it, the repetition, then it just becomes part of your life. But it's just a matter of, just doing it and being mindful of doing it every day.
That's a good takeaway that I have not heard before because I notice myself and others notice it that I hold my breath, and that kind of really impacts the minutes after that. So I'm going to try that before meals, just that really deep in and out breathing. And when I used to do yoga a lot and that was incorporated into my day as like a routine, I
Mhm.
was better at it, but now I've fallen off of that. So that's a really good takeaway. Just it's so simple.
Yeah, it is it is simple. Oh, see how it resonated with you and it felt simple to you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then for, other people, there's other things that they can do. But I love that you got that. And that's one of the things I love about yoga. You're right. It actually encourages you and helps you to do some deep breathing and intentional breathing,
Mhm.
every day. So, and that's one of my favorite things to do too, because it's easy, it's simple. Even when I was working in corporate, I would, if I was getting very stressed and I felt like, or my boss was getting to me or coworkers, whatever, I just would step away. I would go to the ladies' room, which, by the way, if I was on the third floor, I went to the common bathroom on the first floor just to get some steps. But I would go
Nice.
there, so that, that helps you to walk. And then I would just breathe on my own, just take a couple of deep
Mm.
breaths, settle my nervous system, and then, go back to work. So I think it's just a matter of people being aware and mindful, and then having a technique that works for them that they can incorporate.
So good. Okay, so now I want to get to kind of the last thing I want to talk about because this blew me away that and it's the first time I've heard this in the years of working in the industry of sheets and mattresses that you have created specifically with women in mind, a mattress that's going to be so life changing for women navigating menopause. And it's brave because I at least know for us, either investors or partners, it's like, don't limit your audience, men sleep too. I'm like, no, no, no. Let's take care of these women who, by the way, who have partners who, by the way, want their partners to get relief because they're beside their partner suffering, going, I wish I could do something to help my beloved wife who's struggling. And you've been the first to go, no, 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 we're going to create this mattress with women in mind. So tell us about the mattress, the R&D, the science, and
Yeah.
when the heck can we get our hands on one?
All right. So the reason that it came to be, right, was in my practice, I'm helping all these women and they're following everything and they're doing everything. And during the day, things are good and their energy levels are there. And then they're still having sleep issues. They're waking up hot. They're having these hot flashes. And so I thought about it. I'm like, all right, what's different between them and me? What am I doing differently? So would go through my day and I'd be like, oh my goodness, I'm married to someone who's in the bedding industry. He owns a business that does top of bed, more business to business bulk, but sheets and mattress encasements and mattress protectors and pillows. So, and then he also knows people in the mattress industry. So I probably have the best mattress, the best sheets. I'm spoiled. I'm spoiled rotten when
Yeah.
it comes to my sleep. So I'm like, wait a second. This is what they don't have. God knows what mattress they're sleeping on or what sheets they're using. I need to do something about this. And so that's when my husband and I collaborated and I started this business with these menopausal women, or just even just women in general, going through with their thyroid issues and everything else. How can I help them to have a better night's sleep? So that's how this was born. And then even better that we found a manufacturer that is right here in the USA. And we got to work with the architects in building it so that, everything is about comfort, cooling yarns. It's a whole system. It has, there's cooling fibers, and there's mineral infused performance foams. There's so many things that go into making a mattress that keeps you cool and comfortable. So, and there's all different versions of it, but yeah, we're getting ready to launch. I'm excited about it, but I love it. We had a few pre-launch customers, and they're ranting and raving about it and saying it's the best night's sleep they had. So I'm really excited about it.
Oh, you guys are going to transform the industry. I'm so excited. I can't wait to see it live and get our hands on one and tell all of our community about this really special mattress. Where can our community find you and your platform? And give us the details on Slumber Cool and the approximate date to launch so that women can find this.
Okay. So they can find me at withinhealth.net. That's my website. And they can find the mattress at slumbercoolmattress.com. And the good thing is, with every mattress that we sell, they get a sleep bundle. So they're going to get the right, sheets and pillows to go and mattress cover that are going to help enhance. It's like a whole cooling system that's going to just enhance their sleep. So I'm just so excited about it. So slumbercoolmattress.com, that's where they can find us.
Okay, incredible. We're so excited. This has been wonderful. I feel smarter. I'm going to buy some lemons for my lemon water, taking some deep breaths and doing all these things. You've inspired me, Angela. So thanks for laying out really a prescriptive recipe for our community. And it was so great to talk to you today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And listen, for those who feel overwhelmed by trying to make these changes on their own, that's what us health coaches are for. So if you find the right one to help guide you through and, make little changes at a time, that's my biggest thing to everyone, is don't feel like you have to change everything right away. Just make little changes over time, small steps create big change. So I thank you so much for having me, for giving me this platform, for being interested. And thank you so much, Lara. I appreciate it.